JMU beats Arkansas State. The Dukes are going dancing. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. All right, we'll talk. This will be a JMU episode, as it may be for the next week or so. They took care of Arkansas State, and the game wasn't all that close. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about where JMU will be seated and who might their opponent be in the NCAA tournament. And it was also brought up in the postgame, how can the Sun Belt be a two-bid league? He didn't come out and say it, but he basically was saying App State deserves to go, basically. All right, so JMU takes down Arkansas State. No one saw what was coming in this one. It wasn't that JMU beat the Red Wolves. It was that Xavier Brown had a double-double. Xavier Brown, 21 points. I'm not sure if they were all in the first half. Hold on. I think they were all in the first half. Career high, all in the first half. Also grabbed 10 rebounds. Let's find out what his stats are on a daily basis. Let's see what he does on a somewhat regular basis. This year, he did average 21 minutes a game, but he averages 6.5 points a game and 2.5 rebounds a game. 6.5 rebounds and 6.5 points and 2.5 rebounds. He finished with 21 points, all in the first 20 minutes, on a late 8 of 11 shooting, 5 of 6 from 3. At one point in time, he was 6 of 6 from the floor, and 4 of 4 that was from 3. And he also grabbed 10 rebounds and 3 assists. We saw Jalen Carey have 13 points. Let's see what Jalen Carey averaged. In fact, I think he averages 7. I think I looked that up during the game. Jalen Carey, well, let's make sure we got it here. Averages 7 points a ball game, and he doubled that. I mean, goodness. So you got a lot of production out of, it's a team effort. It's the guys who fill in the gaps. Not this time. This time, they were the filler-uppers. Let me make sure it was. Yeah, 7.2 points a game, and he averages actually just over 4 rebounds a game in about 15 minutes of play. That's pretty good. The other thing in this game was it was 42-32 at half, and JMU had 1 turnover. Arkansas State only had 5, which is still pretty good, but JMU had exactly 1 turnover. The game got away from Arkansas State late in the first. They went a little bit cold. They were right there, if not leading. Let's see here. Isaiah Nelson gave them an 18-17 lead. That may have been their last lead. Yeah, that kind of looks like it. And I think that's when Brown started going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Brown had a layup. That made it 19-18. Brown had a three-pointer. That made it 22-18. After a Hicks jumper, Xavier Brown made it 25-20. He made it 27-20. So he had his own, let's see here, 3. I'm sorry, that was a 2-point jumper. So 2, 5, 8. Hit his own 10-0 run personally. And then in the second half, that's when the Noah Friedel's and Terrence Edwards hopped on board. I mean, Edwards had 6 points on 2 of 7 shooting. He did not have a very prolific first half. Noah Friedel was over 3. They weren't doing anything. And then they came to, I wouldn't say came to the rescue, but they stepped up. Terrence Edwards Jr., the Sun Belt Player of the Year, ended up with 19 points on 7 of 15 shooting. So he had a really good second half, 4-4 from the free throw line. And Noah Friedel, 12 points on 4-9 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3. And those 2 were in the first few minutes, I think, of the second half, including one of them ended up being a 4-point play. No. Bickerstaff even ended up with 9. This team actually shot it better in the second half. Let me see if I got it here, what they did here. In the first half, James Madison shot it 55%. In the second half, they shot 70%. You can't come back from that. You're not getting stops. Arkansas State scored 71 points, and they didn't play all that well. They shot 36%, 7 of 25 from 3. Shot they were 22 and 29 from the free throw line, but they just weren't getting stops. A little bit banged up. Freddie Hicks did finish with 24 points. Caleb Fields, he had 10. Ford had 12. Todd had 10. And Nelson had 12. A lot of their shots, I don't know if they were gassed or just banged up, but a lot of their shots weren't even hitting rim. I mean, they were just airball. They were missing shots way short, and I don't know why. I mean, both JMU and Arkansas State were playing their third game in 3 days. So it's not like Arkansas State played on Thursday or Tuesday and played a couple of extra ball games. No, they both played the same amount. Arkansas State actually had a little bit more rest because they played earlier on, if you want to think about it that way. They played earlier on Sunday, but that's only a couple of hours at best, right? Although when a coach tells you they didn't like daylight saving times happening and you know that takes away an hour from prep, maybe a couple hours makes a difference. Maybe it does. So JMU, well-deserved. I was wrong about the App State and JMU. It was only JMU who made it, although they did win it. I'm not sure I picked. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I told you so because I don't think I did. If I did a pick between those two, it probably would have been JMU. I'm not going to say I did that only because, and I wasn't going to pick it because JMU has this or that and Terrence Edwards Jr. or Noah Friedel or whatever. I would have just done it based on it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a row, 3 times in one season. That's all I would have said. Nothing else. So I'm not going to sit here and hammer the syndicate for, me being right. I didn't make that pick. I did say that I would thought that it would be shocking if App State or JMU didn't play for it. I was shocked that App State didn't make it. JMU does, and I think they're going to win a ball game. We'll see who they might play in the NCAA tournament. You guys can comment on that. I'm going to go through the net rankings as they are right now. And so if you're a 12 or 13 seed, we'll go from like 25 to 35. I doubt they'll play a group of 5 team. So let's go through that. All right. Where will JMU be seated come the NCAA tournament? I guess it'll be announced obviously on Selection Sunday, which is coming up. So let's take a timeout. We will do that next. Let me tell you about Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is a perfect SUV for city drivers and great escapes. Classic exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. The 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Earlier on Monday, it was being asked around, what if JMU loses? Will they get in? And basically, I didn't think they would, and others agree with me. But someone, national writer, I tweeted out, if they didn't get in, that would be a 5 seed, counting themselves fortunate not to play JMU, because that's where I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be a 12 seed, maybe 13. Cajuns were 13 last year. JMU, let's see I doubt it's been updated yet. This would be through Sunday. So coming into Monday's ball game, this will change when we wake up. They were 54, and then they went to 55, right? They take down Texas State, but because Texas State's net ranking is not that great, JMU loses a spot. So maybe they'll go up a couple of spots for beating Arkansas State, but I bet you Arkansas State doesn't have a great net ranking either, do they? That's probably much better than it was. Let's see what Arkansas State's like 145 or 140. JMU's, it's going to take a hit, which is sad. Nonetheless, we'll just say they're a 12 or 13 seed, because you put a 31 win team against a 1 or 2 seed. That's not going to be fair either. All right? It's not going to be fair either way. So if the top 20 seeds, right, is that, let's see here, top 4, all right, then 8 is 2, then 12 is 3 seeds, then 16 is a 4 seed. So a 5 seed can be 17, anywhere from 17. Is that right? So St. Mary's is 17th. Could get that. Kansas, wouldn't be surprised. They're 18. Kentucky is 19. That would probably be a tough matchup for JMU. It'd be fun, but that'd be a tough matchup. San Diego State, that'd be a good matchup for JMU. They're known for their defense. Dayton is 21. Wisconsin, 19 and 12. They're 22. Boise State, I don't see that. Texas is 20 and 11. Michigan State, which it won't be. They've already beaten them in Lansing. Clemson is 26th. Colorado is 27th. Could see that. New Mexico is 28th. You won't see that. Indiana State, they're talking about Indiana State not getting in because they didn't win their conference tournament. And Texas Tech is 30th. So, again, most likely, I'm going to guess they're not going to put them up against another group of 5. They will probably put them up against a Power 5 team, just like they put the Cajuns up against Tennessee. So it could be anywhere from Kansas, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Texas, not Michigan State, Clemson, Colorado, maybe all the way to Texas Tech. They got a shot at beating any one of those teams. Well, I'm not sure about Kentucky. I don't think Kansas has played very well this year. I haven't watched a whole lot, admittedly. Kentucky doesn't play great defense. They may be a little bit too big and athletic for JMU. But if JMU is getting contributions from all those guys, right, like they're not going to win too often if Edwards, Friedel, and Bickerstaff have poor ball games. But if they have their good games and they're getting scoring from Brown and they're getting scoring from Carey, it's going to be tough to beat JMU. And here's the other thing, right? This isn't some, I know the Cajuns had a good year last year, but they didn't win no 31 games. You're not going to, I guess that's what that's what the tough part's going to be for the coach, right? That human nature is that, well, they're coming from the Sun Belt. They're no good. And the coach is going to say they won 31 ball games. Yeah. I don't care who you're playing. They won 31 ball games. They're good. If you don't pay attention to what we're telling you, you're going to lose. And then we're going to tell you, we told you so, if you don't take them seriously. And JMU, from what we saw on Monday against Arkansas State, if they play, I can't imagine them playing that well again, but if they play that well, the other team could get blown out. I don't care who they are, because Kentucky doesn't play defense. Although I do think the defense is getting better. So I think JMU very well could win a ball game, depending on what happens on the other side, or in the same side of the bracket, I guess. Do not be surprised if JMU goes to the Sweet 16. I do think I'd be shocked if they get blown out. We'll see who they play. I'd be shocked if they get blown out. I'd be shocked. Then the shots are not falling. The threes aren't falling for Friedel or anybody. And that's what happened. I mean, Xavier Brown did bank one home. Oh, well. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, it was brought up about how can the Sun Belt be a two-bid league, and we'll talk about that scheduling. I think we've talked about this a little bit, but what can the Sun Belt do to become that two-bid league? Let me tell you, we'll do that after this, when I tell you about FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Don't be surprised if McNeese surprises a team too. That's another team that's got a bunch of wins. They could have over 30. They could have 30 wins, I think. Watch out for them as well. I'm still upset I didn't bet on the Michigan game. I told you to bet on that. That one I will sit here and tell you, I told you so. And I didn't do it. All right, so it was brought up for Dave Schultz. Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. How do you get to be a two-bid league? And it was interesting what Mark Byington said. We have to get, and this is what he said, we have to get to the point where it's not a bad loss. And so recording this Monday night in the luxurious hotel that I'm staying in Pensacola, they went from 54, JMU did, to 55 when they beat Texas State. Let's see what happens when they beat Arkansas State when we wake up in the morning. Because Arkansas State's net ranking is 140. That's not going to help. So let's go back to the net rankings. And he said, how can we not have a bad loss? And that's a thing, right? Because the Sun Belt, right, you have James Madison was 55, App was 72, but even Troy, which was the 3 seed, 138. Now that's after they lost, but that's 138. Arkansas State, 140. The Cajuns, 150. Where do we think it would be great to find out where App State would be if they didn't lose? Well, now they what their net ranking would be if they didn't lose to Texas State, which is 207. Georgia State is 220. Southern Miss is 241. Marshall is 247. South Alabama, 248. Georgia Southern, 281. Old Dominion, 295. And ULM is 306. And Coastal Carolina is 319. My goodness. How many schools are there? 362. So the Sun Belt does not have very good rankings. So it's not going to work quite as well in the Big 12. Can you go find some lesser schools and beat up on them and have these wide margins of offensive and defensive efficiencies? And so you're not having a bad loss. Or in the case of the Sun Belt, a bad win. I'm sorry, but beating Old Dominion at 295 does not help. That doesn't help at all. Beating Coastal Carolina when they're in the 300s doesn't help. Georgia Southern started out the season 0-12. They're 281. Now, the Sun Belt has to figure out how to go about scheduling, and that would be the biggest thing right now, I think, outside of maybe expansion coming, but this could be done immediately because a lot of college basketball is done coming up. It's done over the summer. You may sign something here and something there, but that doesn't fill up the schedule. This is all done, over the next 4 or 5 months. Maybe some of it's done now, but a lot of it is done coming up. And so they have to come up with a plan to improve their net ranking because App State should be going to the NCAA tournament. All right. And if JMU lost on Monday night, they should be going to the NCAA tournament. Those two teams should go. All right. We don't need. If JMU played Virginia, they'd beat them. I'm not sure JMU would wouldn't beat my Orange. I'm rooting for my Orange to get in, but Virginia hasn't played well in about a month. I would take JMU in that ballgame. I'd take JMU against Wake. I'd take JMU against Clemson. I would take JMU against those teams, whether they won the tournament or not. So we'll see what Keith Gill and the Sun Belt can do to improve the net rankings, because it's not so much what Mark Byington said. You can't have a bad loss. You can't have a bad win. That's really what they have to avoid. Bad losses happen because they're upsets and teams get hot from three. Can't do anything about a bad loss. The bad win is what's killing the Sun Belt. So, all right. Thanks so much for tuning in. It'll be a little bit of a quicker episode. We are heading back onto Lafayette. We did a little bourbon hunting. Well, we did a lot of bourbon hunting. We got a little bit in Pensacola on something that I had never heard of. And we're making one pit stop on the way home to Lafayette. But hopefully we won't be too long, and hopefully a little bit of a safer drive. Again, major accident, not involving me, thank goodness. And hopefully everybody in that Mobile accident was okay. That happened on Sunday. All right. We'll be back, and we'll try to get Mark Byington on. That may be tougher than I think, but it really has to be in the next 2 or 3 days, because it ain't going to happen next week. I know that. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. I've been live in Pensacola, but you've been watching Locked On Sunbelt. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much, and congratulations to JMU. They are going to the NCAA tournament, winning the Sunbelt Championship 91-71 over Arkansas State. Good night, everybody.